And I've said this many times before, to get a really good understanding of how stupid Brexit really is, you have to go out and read other countries' newspapers. The Irish Times has done some very good reporting on Brexit, and very often we turn to the US, because this comes from the New York Times. So this is the title of this piece: "The United Kingdom has gone mad. The problem with holding out for a perfect Brexit plan is that you can't fix stupid." That's true. That is completely true. So, Politico reported the other day that the French European Affairs Minister, Natalie Louisin, I think that's how it is, has named her cat Brexit. Louisin told the Journal that's how you say it. I'm terrible with foreign pronunciations, but you know that already. Says that she chose to name her cat this because he wakes me up every morning meowing to death because he wants to go out, and then when I open the door, he stays in the middle, undecided, and then gives me evil looks when I put him out. If you can't take a joke, then you shouldn't have come to London right now, because there is a political farce everywhere. In truth, though, it is not very funny. It's actually tragic. What we're seeing is a country that's determined to commit economic suicide, but can't even agree on how to kill itself. It's an epic failure of political leadership. I say, bring back the monarchy. Where have you gone, Queen Elizabeth? A nation turns its lonely eyes to you. Seriously, the United Kingdom, the world's sixth largest economy actually, a country whose elites created a modern parliamentary democracy, modern banking and finance, the Industrial Revolution, the whole concept of globalization, seems dead set on quitting the European Union, the world's largest market for the free movement of goods, capital, services and labour, without a well-conceived plan, or maybe without a plan at all. Both Conservative and Labour members of Parliament keep voting down one plan after another, looking for the perfect fix, the pain-free exit from the EU, but there is none because you can't fix stupid. And there is not a perfect Brexit plan because, as has already been pointed out, even if we were to go with the most softest of softest Brexit, we would still be damaging the economy. And trying to replicate and put in policies to try and paper over those gaps. If you remember a time ago, it was I think 2% was the least damage economists were saying that we could get away with. But even 2% is trillions upon trillions of pounds, and that's not going to be something you can easily fix. You've got to really put in good policies to try and do it, and I don't think even our government is capable of that. The entire Brexit choice was presented to the public in 2016 with utterly misleading simplicity. It was sold with a pack of lies about both the size and the benefits and the ease of implementation. And it continues to be pushed by conservative hardliners who used to care about business but are now obsessed with restoring Britain's sovereignty over any economic considerations. Why? Because, as we've said, they hate regulation. And that's why they want out of the EU, because they want out of all these regulations. They don't think that the EU or any form of the government should have anything to do with these regulations. And they are terrified to death of Europe now taking on tax avoidance, because those have now come into effect. And guess what? The EU has said, oh, by the way, UK, these directives are now in effect, and there's a couple of multinationals in your country that owe millions of pounds. Can we have them back, please? And one of those companies is the Daily Mail. So, so the irony of it, a paper pushing so hard to leave because it had all this money that it had, been using, shall I say, clever tricks to not pay. And they don't seem to be listening at all to the people. Like Tom Enders, the CEO of the aerospace giant Airbus, which employs more than 14,000 people in the UK, with around 110,000 more local jobs connected to its supply chains. Enders has warned that the political leadership here that if the UK crashes out with the EU in the coming weeks, Airbus may be forced to make some potentially very harmful decisions about its operations in Britain. Please don't listen to the Brexiteers. Please don't listen to the Brexiteers' madness, which asserts that because we have huge plants here, we will not move. They are wrong, he said, and make no mistake, there are plenty of countries out there who would love to build the wings for Airbus aircraft. I understand the grievances of many of those who voted to leave the EU. For starters, they felt swamped by EU immigrants. There are reportedly some 300,000 French citizens living in London, which would make it one of the biggest French cities in the world. I had a drink with a Member of Parliament in a bar in the House of Commons on Tuesday, and as we sat down, he whispered to me that not a single person working in this whole building is British. I also get the resentment of Brits having having regulations set by faceless EU bureaucrats in Brussels, and I get their resentment at the globalised urban elites and those in the rural areas here looked down at them. And I get the squeeze on middle-class wages here that gets blamed unfairly on the EU and immigrants the way President Trump blames Mexicans. I get all that. But I also get what it means to be a leader in the 21st century, and it surely doesn't mean asserting your sovereignty over all other considerations or breaking out of the giant EU market where the UK sends over 40% of its exports without a serious national decision at the cost and benefits. And what do the most effective leaders today have in common? They wake up every morning and ask themselves the same questions. What world am I living in? What are the biggest trends in the world? And how do I educate my citizens about the world and align my policies so that more of my people can get the best out of those trends and, and cushion the worst? So what world are we living in? For starters, we're living in a world that is becoming so interconnected thanks to digitization. The internet, broadband, mobile devices, the cloud, the soon-to-be 5G wireless transmissions that are becoming independent to an unprecedented degree. In this world, growth increasingly depends on your ability of yourself, your community, your town, your factory, your school, and your country to be connected to more and more of the flows of knowledge and investment, and it's not just rely on stocks and stuff. Over century, notes John Hagel, who currently co-heads Dieter's Centre for the Edge, business has been organised around stocks of knowledge as the basis for value creation. The key to creating economic value has been to acquire some proprietary knowledge stocks, aggressively protect those knowledge stocks, and then efficiently extract the economic value from those knowledge stocks and deliver them to the market. The challenge in a more rapidly changing world is that knowledge stocks depreciate at an accelerating rate. In this kind of world, the key source of economic value shifts from stocks to flows. The companies that create the most economic value in the future, Hegel says, will be the ones who find ways to participate more effectively in a broader range of more diverse knowledge flows than can refresh knowledge stocks at an accelerating rate. And yet Britain is ruled today by a party who wants to disconnect from a connected world. The notion that the UK will suddenly get a great free trade deal from Trump as soon as it quits the EU is ludicrous. Trump believes in competitive nationalism, and the very reason he is protecting is promoting the breakup of the EU is that he believes America can dominate the EU's individual economies much better when they much better than when they negotiate together as the single biggest market in the world. The second thing the best leaders understand is that the world of simultaneous accelerations in technology and globalization is keeping your country open as possible to as many flows as possible as it is advantageous for two reasons. First, you get all the change signals first and have to respond to them to attract the most high IQ risk takers who tend to be the people who start or advance new companies. In the US, who is the CEO of Microsoft? Satya Nadella. Who is the CEO of Google? Sundar Pichai. Who is the CEO of Adobe? Shatu Nahuan, I think that's how you say it. Who is the CEO of Workday? Hello London. The best talents want to go to the most open systems, open to both immigrants and trade, because that is where the most opportunities are. Britain is about to put up a big sign, go away. The wisest leaders also understand that the big problems today are global problems, and that only global solutions, and I'm talking about climate change, trade rules, technology standards, and preventing excesses of configuration in the financial markets. If your country wants to have any say in how those problems are solved, and your country's name is not America, Russia, China, or India, you need to be part of a wider coalition like the European Union. The UK's membership in the EU has given it an outside voice in world affairs. And there is just one more thing that the best leaders know, a little history. Trump is fine with a world of competitive European nationalisms, not a strong European Union. So is Vladimir Putin, so it seems. And so it seems are the Brexiteers. How quickly they've all forgotten that the EU and NATO were built to prevent the very competitive nationalism that ran riot in Europe in the 20th century and brought us 2 world wars. Sorry to be so despondent, but when I went to graduate school here on a Marshall Scholarship from the British government, was married here and started as a journalist on Fleet Street in London, I liked the place, but it is not the reasonability, the competent British government that I grew up with. It's being led by a ship of fools, a conservative bloc that is now radicalised in its obsession with leaving Europe, and the Labour Party that has gone Marxist. If the people here can't force their politicians to compromise with one another, and with reality, there's still a glimmer of hope that this might happen, then there is going to be crack up of the British political system and some serious economic pain. This is scary. And I sort of disagree with him here that it's gone Marxist. It's more gone socialist rather than Marxist, but there you are. It is an American paper. But yeah, I completely agree with him. All these Brexiteers always claim how great the UK is and how it has this global standing. The only reason it has this global standing is because it is part of the EU. And he's right. Trump and both Vladimir Putin are heavily promoting trying to break up the EU, because both these countries can economically dominate these countries if they are broken up, if they are not negotiating together as the world's largest single trading bloc. That is why they want to break up the European Union. Not for any reason of sovereignty or any like that. It's because it's a threat to their own country. They can't get good trade deals from France anymore because France is part of the EU. That's how it works. And we need to be part of that, because we are going to find out how painful it is to be a country apart and alone. And he is right at the end, where many Brexiteers say, oh, you said that if we leave Europe there'll be a 3rd World War. Here's the thing. You look at the causes of the two world wars, and even you go back through the history of Europe, this and all the wars that were caused by single countries looking for advantage over their neighbours. And that's how those wars started, and we live currently in the most peaceful Europe in history. Europe has not been at peace this long in decades, since really history began. Probably since the Roman Empire, but back then Europe really wasn't an idea. There hasn't been as much peace since then, essentially. And if you want countries to go back to being individual nations, then you've got a problem, because you've got nationalists who argue that they want to take territory back from countries. The far right in Italy wants to take territory back from Austria. The Austrians and Hungary, there are movements in there that want to take territory back from the Balkans and Italy as well. And, you know, so this idea is ridiculous, because this is where it ends up. All these nationalist countries, sooner or later this builds up, and this turns into jingoism of, oh, we can take this other country easily. And that's how wars generally started, because we'll just go to war because, you know, we can, and it gets us a huge amount of prestige, and we can probably take some territory in the meantime. And, you know, I just want to reiterate the fact of, you know, we are living in the longest period of peace this continent has seen. And we owe that to the institutions, namely NATO and the European Union, especially the European Union, that have guaranteed that these countries can come together and work together and affect on global solutions. And one of the reasons, and we'll in fact actually, oh no, we'll do it in that separate video, but we'll go over in another video, probably the next video, about the timeline of this, because when you read this timeline, suddenly it makes a lot more sense why these hard right Brexiteers are so concerned about trying to leave the European Union.